What's going on, Dolphin fans? It is your boy Dillon, and I'm making a quick video. I just wanted to discuss a couple things. I have some plans for some other stuff, some content to make, which hopefully I'll be getting to soon. Want to talk about the how the season went and stuff like that. But the Dolphins have started signing some reserve contracts, reserve futures contracts. Obviously, their season is over, so they're starting work on the next season. They've already signed Kirk Merritt, wide receiver, I believe, and they just signed Jordan Scarlett. He's a running back. I guess he used to be a fifth-round pick of the Panthers. I don't really know much about him, so we'll see how that goes. Obviously, the running game left a lot to be desired, and obviously the offense as a whole left a lot to be desired, so we'll see how that plays out. Maybe he can be a contributor next season. Obviously, there was some good stuff shown from, Gaskin and Salvon Ahmed. So, hopefully they can improve upon some of those flashes and some of the good things that we did see, and, do better, perform better next season. Obviously, injuries were a part of that, and obviously that's in part because this entire season was completely fucked because of COVID and because of other things and blah, 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 which led to more injuries, blah, 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 blah. So we'll see how that plays out, and we'll see how it goes moving forward. Obviously, we'll try and keep track of all the transactions and stuff that the Dolphins make and see how that they reshape their team, their roster going into next season. Now, obviously, there's not really much that can happen right now because the playoffs are still going on, and, the Super Bowl has to be played, blah, 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 and then eventually we'll get to the off season and free agency, etc. But we still do have a minute before we get there. All right, so the next thing that I want to talk about, though, is some rumors that are going on. A possible trade that the Dolphins could potentially, make. So what is that? And I'm pretty sure most everybody's heard about this by now. Let's see. I think this is from CBS Sports. Deshaun Watson would consider Dolphins trade Tua Tagovailoa to the Texans. Right? So in the event the Houston Texans' relationship with Deshaun Watson devolves to a point where a trade is the only option, the Miami Dolphins may emerge as a possible suitor. ESPN's Chris Mortensen reported Sunday that Watson would consider a move to the Dolphins, with Tua Tagovailoa possibly part of a hypothetical trade package going to Houston. Chris Mortensen, this is what he had tweeted out. Reports about Deshaun Watson's unhappiness with Houston Texans are accurate, and sources close to the quarterback say he is still angry about teams' insensitivity to social justice. Well, I got bad news for him. No team's really good at that, considering the fact that every single team owner is a racist, capitalist, greedy piece of shit. But I'm sure he'll figure that out the longer that he's in the NFL. So anyway, but fair enough, including hiring practices after the franchise failed to interview Chiefs offensive coordinator Eric Bieniemy this past week. Sources say Watson could play hardball with Texans about a trade. His new $156 million contract includes a no-trade clause, but informed speculation from a source is that he would consider the Miami Dolphins, in which Tua Tagovailoa and additional compensation go to Houston. Okay? NFL Network's Ian Rappaport and ESPN's Adam Schefter reported Watson was upset in the wake of new general manager Nick Caserio's arrival. The three-time Pro Bowler was under the impression he'd have an active role in the hiring process, but he ultimately felt marginalized and wasn't informed of the move before reading about it on social media. Shocker, because all they care about is their fucking business and their bottom line, bro. The NFL is nothing more than a fucking greedy capitalist fucking piece of shit machine at this point that literally cares about nothing but profits. They don't care about people's lives. They don't care about the quality of the game. And there is an abundance of evidence to that end and to that whatever. So, and, anybody who, ignores it or denies it, I mean, okay, I guess. Either you're stupid or you're willfully doing it, in which case you're probably not a very good person yourself. as much as Watson might, and you'd be the kind of person to defend the actions and say, oh yeah, we should have football in the middle of a pandemic, and no, they're not greedy sacks of shit, even though they try and fucking rob money from the players and fucking blah blah blah. Like, okay dude, whatever, fuck you, I don't care. I have no interest in convincing people who not only, you know, or really just people who would defend, you know, the actions of the NFL. Anyway, as much as Watson might want out, the biggest hurdle is whether another team could put together a trade that comes close to matching the value of an elite quarterback in his prime and sign through 2025. The Dolphins might be in a position to make a competitive offer if they act before the 2021 draft. Houston could get back its first and second round picks for this year in addition to Miami's own draft compensation. Tagovailoa would also serve as the quarterback of the future as the Texans head in a new direction. Alright, let's just finish this before I add some more commentary. However, Tagovailoa has yet to prove he is good enough to be a marginalized cornerstone. Or, excuse me, organizational cornerstone. I don't know why I said marginalized. The rookie threw for 1,814 yards, 11 touchdowns, and 5 interceptions in 10 appearances. His 6.3 yards per attempt were also tied for the 5th fewest in the NFL. Tagovailoa should be better in 2021. That has yet to be seen, obviously, because we're not there yet. And I think that him and the Dolphins certainly have a big hill to climb. But theoretically speaking, at least you would think so. So he'll benefit from the experience he gained in his first year and will be a full season removed from the hip injury that ended his college career. But he still had injuries even in his limited fucking time. Now, thankfully, he was relatively unscathed by the time their season ended, since they got eliminated from the playoffs and are no longer playing. But he had yet another ankle injury and an injury to his right throwing hand, or left throwing hand, his left hand, which is his throwing hand, right? So, I mean, I still have tons of concerns in that regard, and when it comes to his health, right? And it is also true that while he showed some flashes and showed some of that potential, he still has a long way to go and has not yet proven to be, you know, that elite guy or blah, 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 blah. Now, that's not, and to be fair, he was a rookie. He got thrown into the fire, and I don't think he should have been. I think that they should have redshirted him the entire year. I feel fully confident that Ryan Fitzpatrick could have got them to fucking 10-6 under the conditions that Tua did, because Tua didn't win us any games. He happened to win while being in the game. There's a difference. Tua, to be clear, he had some flash plays and he showed some of that potential, but he also made a ton of mistakes and just simply lucked out. He should have had more interceptions than touchdowns, and they likely would have lost more games if he didn't luck out the way he did. Right now, the Dolphins team in a lot of ways lucked out, and part of that is because they had to constantly play teams that were either bad, rebuilding, and or decimated by injuries / COVID, right? So, and a lot of those injuries actually ended up happening like right before the Dolphins played them. But in addition, Tua threw a ton of interceptions. And not just like, you know, oh, it got deflected and maybe a defender could have possibly somehow, if he made some like incredibly spectacular catch, could have got it. No, he constantly was throwing the ball into the hands or the gut of the defender. It just so happened that a lot of those came back because of either penalty or because the defender just couldn't fucking keep a hold of it when they went to the ground, or, you know, one dude just barely stepped out of bounds right before catching the ball, right? So there were numerous instances where those things happened and he got super lucky, right? So obviously still has a long way to go. I think he could eventually be a really great quarterback, but he was not put in the best situation. He just wasn't. Throwing him into the fire is not good. Having his offensive coordinator now change is not going to be good for his development. He's got to learn an entirely new playbook now when he wasn't even 100% on the previous one. So I do have concerns with him in particular over his health, not his ability. I still do have concerns over his health and if he's going to be able to have a long career because of that, but it's not his ability that I question. When it comes to that and whether or not his ability will be maximized is a question that I have with the Dolphins, because I am not convinced that they are building this team properly. Now, having said all of that, I think that it would be a bad decision to make the trade. Now, to be clear, I actually would take Deshaun Watson over Tua simply for the injury reasons, right? Deshaun Watson does not have the same kind of injury history that Tua does. So in that regard, I would take him. As far as ability goes, I think that I would have either guy. I think that they both have more than enough ability to take the team where I'd want us to go. But I think either quarterback will be in a situation that is not necessarily conducive to their success if they're in Miami. Because again, I personally don't think that they're building this team properly. Now, having said that, if they were to do what was, talked about or suggested in this article, they would be giving the Texans Tua Tagovailoa, the quarterback they literally tanked 2 seasons ago to get, who is supposedly their guy for 2021, their franchise guy, etc., right? That they fucking accumulated all that draft capital for, blah, 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 right? And he's obviously a couple years younger than Deshaun Watson. He's obviously significantly cheaper because he's on his rookie deal. Deshaun Watson has a $156 million contract. So the Dolphins would have to absorb that, which would be a massive, massive, massive hit to the cap when they already have guys like Byron Jones and Xavier Howard who are massive cap hits. Right, so there's that. I don't agree with that. I would not take that on. But also, did you hear Houston could get back its first round pick? So I believe that's 3 overall. I think they're in the top 5, somewhere in there. So they would get that back. Their second round pick of theirs that we have this year, in addition to Miami's own draft compensation. So they're not clear about what that would be necessarily. And if they were also getting Tua, I would think that for Watson, Tua, a first and a second round pick is probably, good enough. But knowing the Dolphins, knowing the NFL, knowing how all this plays out, they would likely also give up their first round pick or maybe one of their own second round picks or something like that. They would still probably give up in it because this person is likely right. They would probably have to give Houston back their first round and second round picks of theirs that we own for this season, and we would also probably have to give them some of our own draft capital, which, if they did that, personally, I think it would be absolutely stupid. And then that would also be an admission that they made a wrong choice. That they believe that they made a wrong choice. Not necessarily that Tua Tagovailoa was the wrong choice or that he won't be their guy. But if they gave up on him after one season and traded for another, quarterback who's far more expensive and to give away all that draft capital, I just wouldn't do that. I don't think that's a smart move. And it would be an admission that the guy that they tanked for and traded away all these players to accumulate draft capital for, etc., is not their guy, and they're going to give up after him after just one season, after having made the decision that they're going to throw him in the fire because they just got to fucking put him in when they could have let him redshirt. Anyway, so we'll see how all that plays out. That's obviously just a rumor, so we don't know, and it obviously hasn't happened yet, so until it does, it's literally just speculation. But from my perspective, I think that would be an absolutely stupid deal to make for a number of reasons. You drastically cut your draft capital that you have. You would take a massive hit to the cap space. I do agree that marginally I would take Watson over Tua just because, again, the injury history, and he does have more experience in the NFL. He doesn't have to adjust anymore. But I don't think Deshaun Watson would get very much help in Miami. And I don't think he's... And finally, I also, as you guys know, don't believe in this, all you need is a quarterback bullshit philosophy. It's an entire fucking team. You can't the quarterback's not going to win everything. Sure, having a special elite guy is great and wonderful, and sure, they can help you, get to, bringing your team to dynasty level. Sure, great, whatever. But you don't need to find that guy in the first round. You don't need to use that fucking, those resources on a quarterback. It is not necessary. You can find them in the later rounds. I would rather use those resources to build a more well-rounded and complete team than focusing on one dude, etc., etc., etc. So that's what it is. That's how I feel, and that's the news and the updates. A couple reserve contracts that I wanted to talk about, and then I did want to address this rumor about the Dolphins possibly trading for Deshaun Watson. So, yeah. All right, well, that's what I got. I hope you guys appreciate my perspectives. If you do, make sure you hit the subscribe button, make sure you hit the like button, make sure you hit the bell if you want to get the alerts. Share my channel and videos with your friends and family. Leave your questions, comments, and concerns in the comment section, And as always, follow me on Twitter at Dillon Tartaro. And with that, I am out. I'll see y'all soon. Fins up.